So you think TEJO is strong, and you're right, he's overpowered, but he can be even better. If you want to play with your friends, in this video I'm gonna suggest the best choices when it comes to the other agents to synergize alongside TEJO. But not only that, in this video I will also speak about my prediction when it comes to the Meta Synergy in VCT tournaments. Let's go. Today's episode is sponsored by Elgato. Go to elgato.com for the newest hardware for streamers. I created this tier list to easily understand the purpose of the synergies. So let's start at the bottom and explain it. No synergy. That's it. That's the explanation. If you found any with Reina, Chamber, Sky, Harbor or Cypher, please let me know because I don't see any. But you're here in this video to learn about the best synergies. So let's speak about those. At the top, you're gonna find Breach and Astra on the incredible synergy tier. Those two characters have so many layers to combine it with TEJO, it's quite incredible. Now think about it. Breach can stun specific cubbies and angles to combo that with the missile. Aftershock has a similar purpose. Now both of those characters have also a purpose in post plant, because TEJO is fantastic in post plant. Breach can synergize with that with the Aftershock and with the stun, so you can combine the stun and the rockets together. But also the ults are covering an entire site. You can cover any site essentially on almost any map apart from maybe Breeze with both of those ultimates together. It's quite an AoE effect, and if you do it on the same area, that's essentially a kill. So this is an example of an execute on C. As you can see, only normal utilities are being used: Breach stun, Aftershock, stun from TEJO, and the missiles from TEJO. Yeah, I know those are brimstone smokes, but that's the same shape and size, and we don't have TEJO yet in the VALORANT app, so let's work with what we have. Now, as you can see, the almost entire site is covered with just those two characters, and it's a brute force execute that essentially forces the opponents to abandon it and give it away for free. And also think about this, both the missiles and the stun are gonna get back for the post plant. So it's the potential of the synergies is incredible for those two characters. Breach has also one of those things that TEJO is lacking, which is flashes. So he perfectly slots in the needs of the composition to work with TEJO together. Now let's speak about Astra, because he is essentially filling the same role as Breach, right? Because she has a stun and a pull that synergizes well with the missiles. Fantastic for post plant. The ultimate can cover the sound of the oncoming missiles, oncoming stun, so they can be used as a surprise. And in general, there's a lot of smaller synergy. Now let's take a look at that example of the execute on Heaven again. So let's add now the Astra utility on top of the rest of here. So smokes in double dose. Remember to do it a little bit deeper so it doesn't like go on the side. Same goes for the CT smoke. Now I'm a fan of using this smoke over here because it forces away the people for retaking completely and not abuse the space that you create them if you do the smoke over here, because it also will make your flashes way worse if you have a smoke over here. So do the smoke over here. And now, remember, we still have the stun and the pull from the Astra. And you can just put it anywhere. Now, it's your choice what you synergize with. You might synergize with the Aftershock. You might synergize with the missiles. You might synergize again with the missiles over here. Like, there's so many options. And you either go for the kill zones or you go for, like, separation. So you're zoning everything. Like, this is just normal utility. When you think about it, this is like 300 credits for stun, 200 credits for Aftershock, and 300 credits for the 2 stars. Like, that's nuts. Like, this is... how do you defend against this? I think you just have to let it go and just go away and retake. But again, you still have 1 star for the Astra for the post plant, and you have the recurring stun and the recurring missiles coming from Breach and TEJO. But what's best about those two characters that we have over here is that they are fantastic for defaulting. If you play TEJO, Breach, and Astra, every single one of those characters has utility that will come back to you in the 2nd cycle or in the 3rd cycle, because they will come back every 40 seconds. So you can play slow methodical approach to the map by defaulting, stunning the areas, gathering space, and forcing out utility from the defenders with utility pieces that you get back. So incredible value, and I feel like it's a core composition that you can work with at the VCT level. So TEJO, Breach and Astra might be a phenomenal choice for maps like Haven or Split, for example, or Bind. So overall, if you play with friends, if you have a good Breach and a good Astra with you, you're in for a really fun time. Now let's talk about the second tier, Great Synergy. Now you have 3 duelists that share the same trait. Essentially, they are space creators. So you have Yoru, Neon, and Raze. And all those 3 can essentially use the space that is being created by TEJO's missiles and the stun to go after that and get that space under their control. Let's say we're playing on Bind and we're gonna missile the lamps area with TEJO. The missiles essentially cover the entire lamps and it's free for the taking. You only have to worry about this small area over here, but the 3 characters, Raze, Yoru and Neon, can easily abuse this area by using a flash from Yoru that bounces high, and then the Yoru TPs over here and just takes the space, because most likely either gets the kill in this area over here or just can advance into lamps by tanking also the 1 missile. Remember, it only deals 1/3 of the 60 to 70 damage, so it's not much. It's gonna be like a chip of 20 damage to you. So don't be afraid into going to the area while it still explodes to be in lamps already, right? And also, then if you do the missiles, by the way, always use this missile as first and this missiles as second, because you want those to last a little bit longer than those ones. Now, Neon obviously stuns this area over here and just slides in. Raze nades this area over here and satchels in. All of those 3 share the same traits essentially when it comes to space creation, and they synergize well. Split is a great example for the Yoru TEJO synergy, because we can just use something that we actually have seen on the trailer from Valorant. Missiles in the back over here, right? And now Yoru can just TP after those missiles are expiring, because you know this area is clear, so you don't have to worry about it. And also remember, the missiles don't deal damage to your own utility, so you can have that TP there already or travel during the missiles explosion and not worry about it. You can also just TP out again during its explosion, because you're gonna get 20 damage by just 1 explosion from it. No big deal. It's all about the moment of surprise. Remember also that Yoru has fantastic synergy with Breach himself, so he can slot in perfectly, because all of the upsides that you have playing Yoru Breach together, you also have with TEJO. Now when Yoru ults and goes into side, checks all the corners for free, you know where to stun, where to missile. Both of the ultimates from Breach and TEJO have the same kind of logic, so it's like a rolling wave, so Yoru can time his exit of his ultimate during the Breach or TEJO ultimate and get easy kills while players are running away, or just abuse the stuns. So it's already built in fantastic synergy here, and then you get on top of that all from TEJO. So if I play Astra Breach, TEJO, Yoru seems like a really scary comp. But now the same things apply also, I mean, not exactly the same things, but you have those similar synergies between Raze and Neon with Breach as well, because of the zoning utility. So essentially, all of those 3 duelists kind of share the same traits, but Raze on top of it is fantastic at covering the areas, because now you can zone with missiles on any side, use the paint shells and maybe the ultimate from Raze to essentially cover everything with damaging utility. If you thought that there was a problem already with utility killing people, now just wait to see compositions like Raze, TEJO, Breach. It's gonna be obnoxious. I'm telling you right now, it's gonna be really tough to play. And Raze shares a lot of similar map pool, like let's say advantages to TEJO, although I think TEJO is playable on every single map. Raze is very playable Bind and Split, and those are the maps where I think TEJO will also thrive as one of his best maps. Now, let's talk about Brimstone. Why is he here even? For similar reasons as Raze, apart from the mobility, because you can use the molly and the ultimate to cover a lot of spaces with damaging utility to flash out people, or just literally just get kills. Again, if you don't want to play Astra Brim together, most likely, so there's gonna be like an exchange. If you don't have an Astra, just play with Brimstone to have still the smokes in the composition, but also some minor or bigger synergy with TEJO, because even his Brimstone Steam Beacon has a synergy with TEJO, since it can boost the movement speed of his drone, and also just in general, if you're able to do quick executes, because TEJO is a very similar type of utility usage player as Brimstone, you essentially drop it and run in. So the natural way of playing those characters pushes you forward, and you abuse essentially the way that you just drop everything you have and just run in and shoot people. Also remember that Raze, Brimstone, Breach, and Astra all have fantastic pos plant. So it's kind of hard to defuse the spike if you have any of those synergies there. Now in the third row, it's a very simple to understand synergy. It's just to get kills. And every single of those characters has a utility piece that you can combo with the missiles or with the ultimate of TEJO to essentially get a kill. Double damage from ISO is fantastic because it shares the same trait as the breach from as the stun from Breach. So essentially it goes through walls. You don't have to worry about lining up, or you don't have to worry about being exposed, because you just point and click and it goes through walls. And it's same for TEJO. So you want to clear a cubby, double damage rocket, just learn a little bit of the timings, and suddenly one person just gets one explosion for 60 damage, because you can get that damage really easily done. So with ISO, it's much simpler to get a kill than with the other characters over here, because they require a little bit more planning. Vice has the synergy with the vines. Essentially, you cover a lot of space with it, and you do like lineups, for example, like on Bind. If you just cover the areas with the vine and then you just missile the lamps over here, then the player coming out of lamps will have to be dealt quite a lot of damage, because now it deals 10 damage per tick, right? When he's gonna be dodging the missiles, or you just combine them in the same spot to essentially make them get the damage out of vines. So they will always guaranteed get like 50, 60 damage just from the vines. And if they dodge the rockets, then they will survive. But even if they get one explosion, they might just die if they have small shields. So that's like the kill focus. But again, it requires lineups from Vice and landing time, so it's a little bit harder to time it correctly. Now with Fade, it's kind of similar. You can just literally just seize someone in a corner and kill them with a missile. When we're talking about Bind, for example, if you play on short, you can start the round by seizing this area over here, and on top of that you just put 2 missiles, and essentially if someone was standing there, you get a kill guaranteed, because it's such an easy lineup and fast execute. So you can find those short range combos with Fade very easily on many maps. Like Bind is a great example, Ascent is a great example. But then if you play Fade, you probably will not play Breach, so just remember that you kind of forgo the best synergy that I think there is for TEJO. And but there's still some, right? And with Fade. And the ultimate is also pretty decent, because it will block the upcoming audio of all the crucial informations from TEJO, so the missiles, especially if they come from the back for someone. The ultimate, the same. You will only see the visual cue, but also remember that Seize also does the same with the audio. So if you hit someone with the Seize, they will also not know about the upcoming ongoing or oncoming utility towards them. So Fade is a decent choice, but it's all kind of like a kill focus synergy. Now Sage is just literally Vice. Instead of the vines, you have the slows, and that's essentially the same thing. You do a lineup, you try to align it with the missiles, but it's quite challenging to do because of the travel time and how telegraphed it is as well, because you essentially have the audio of the oncoming slows as well, right? So not much to say here. She also doesn't really deliver anything else because she's Sage. Not really. I don't really recommend playing her in general. And the same will apply to Deadlock. I know there's like some big fandom of Deadlock. I don't know why, because I think she's a terrible character and she should not be played. But so many people will probably try to, even at VCT level, try to make TEJO and Deadlock work when you literally have better synergies with Vice. Like, I know that people are fan of the grenade and trying to combo that, but Vice almost achieves the same and deals damage. And if you get a kill, you get a kill with both of them. If you nail that synergy, if you nail the landing time, you will get a kill with Vice slows as well. Or you deal so much chip damage that it doesn't really matter that much, because you can get away from the grenade of Deadlock very fast and then exit out of the area of the missile, right? So I think Deadlock in general doesn't really deliver much, and she also has only one grenade. The upside is that it goes through walls, but I don't think that's big enough upside to actually play a character like this. Because apart from the grenade, you don't really have any synergy. And if you play against TEJO, you don't really want to even play a Sentinel. So that's about it. Now, Jett is in her own role because the only synergy that she has is basically the movement. Just like I described with Raze and Neon and Yoru, she can take the space, but the problem is she doesn't have like a supportive synergy utility piece like the flash, the stun, the paint shells to cover that a little bit of ground before you missile, like on bind on lamps, right? You can just dash into your own smoke and try to get a kill, and that's it, right? But she has synergy because she takes space that the TEJO player will create for that player. Now, the role barely any synergies, doesn't really have much, so let's just briefly touch on it. Phoenix, molly a corner to zone out, kind of like in a similar fashion, like Raze to just cover more ground, or Brimstone, right? Or just combo it with the missiles, should try to get a kill, but it's still gonna be challenging. So not much to say here, right? But he fixes the problem with the lack of flashes, so that's something, right? He has that a little bit of gap that he closes when he plays with TEJO. Omen has a little bit more synergies because one, he can TP into space that TEJO clears with the missiles, so it's pretty decent for the normal TP, but also for the ultimate. Like, let's say the lamps in bind are being missiled, and then you TP with Omen there during those missiles, right? So you take that space directly. Paranoia has also pretty decent synergy. Like, for example, over here, we'll play on Ascent. Ascent will be back in the pool in no time, right? So if we do an execute and I Paranoia the Jenny area, and then the TEJO player does missiles first here, then second here, he's able to essentially get a most likely a kill or zone out a player to peek out in the open for a player to try to kill him, right? Or you change the direction of the missiles like this, so your player gets forced out in the open. If there's no smoke over here, then he can just get killed by from players from A main, right? And that decently covers it because the player that is blinded will not see the oncoming missiles, or even see like the danger on the ground, right? So that's a decent synergy. I mean, a decent synergy in a barely any synergies, right? Then Viper essentially is like a very weak kill focused synergy because you can molly an area and then try to get a double damage on the missiles. Hard to nail, very small area of effect, so I would not recommend. The upside of this DK on the ultimate, on the walls, on the orbs is essentially, well, you can get kills with the missiles easier because someone is already damaged by the DK. Pretty good synergy in post plant though, in the ultimate from Viper. But apart from that, like, Viper is actually way worse at post plant than TEJO. Even with 2 snake bites, she would actually be still worse than TEJO in post plant. Post plant TEJO is just obnoxious. He's almost always gonna have at least the missiles. The ultimate is just mind-blowing in post-plant, so yeah, good luck, right? Then we have KO. Not much to say, just a grenade to cover more ground so you can easily check, like, flash out corners. That's essentially it. So you have 2 missiles and a grenade to cover like 3 cubbies on a side. Sova, some synergy to cover like empty spaces of the ultimates, like to combine like the space, and shock darts to essentially kill every single piece of utility of a Sentinel on the planet if you play both Sova and TEJO. But yeah, not much to say here. Gecko, same as the KO grenade, you essentially cover more space during the execute, and that's about it. If you get someone with the ultimate from Gecko, I guess you can execute that player with missiles if you know where he is. So that's pretty nice as a point and click synergy, right? Gecko gets someone, TEJO clicks on that person, and he's dead. The synergy with Clove is essentially the DK on the grenade. Very hard to use those because it's very like reactive. Like, you don't throw that grenade without exactly knowing what you're gonna do already, like in a close-up corner, or it's gonna be hard to combo that with TEJO on the fly because of the, like, how fast it's gonna happen. And Killjoy, essentially the same as KO grenades, you just have mollies to cover more ground. And yeah, that's about it. So now let's talk about the VCT. I'm gonna pitch you here a theory when it comes to VCT. I think TEJO is so strong that he should be played on all maps by every single team, and the only teams that will not play him, I think they're gonna be having an excuse of just lack of time to prepare to play with TEJO, instead of saying that he's just not good enough because he's that strong, right? And if that's true, if my theory is correct, then the entire game will change. The entire game will change because I don't think you can play Defender Sentinels anymore. You can't play Cypher, you can't play Killjoy, you can't play Deadlock, you can't play Vice. Well, to some degree, Vice can be played because the wall cannot be destroyed, right? But you cannot really have certainty of any utility from your Sentinels because of how easy it is to destroy them with the missiles. And with the ultimate, it essentially covers everything, right? So I think in VCT, if TEJO doesn't get nerfed and he's as strong as I think he is, teams should focus their compositions on being proactive with more initiators and duelists who have proactive utility to gather space on both attack and defense. So we're gonna see like a brute force compositions from both sides. So I don't think we're gonna see Sentinel compositions. I think we're gonna see like double initiator, one duelist, two duelists, one initiator, and clash together. So for example, compositions might revolve around like a Raze plus TEJO and Breach, or Yoru and Breach and TEJO. And if we don't play TEJO, then we have to play like double initiator to cover the space. So maybe like two proactive initiators, like a Fade plus Sova or Sova plus Sky, or Breach plus Sova, like on Haven, for example. But I truly think that you cannot really play like a proper Sentinel if TEJO is as strong as I do think he is. So it's gonna be a very interesting metagame in the upcoming time, specifically on kickoff, because I refuse to believe that they're gonna nerf him before kickoff, because now teams are preparing with this strong agent in mind, so they cannot do that. After kickoff, it might be actually it's probably gonna be very probable that he's gonna get nerfed to the ground. And we might actually make a video about what can be changed about TEJO to make him more balanced, because right now he is just, I don't know, like he is gonna be smoking a lot of people in the games, and people will lose their minds about it. So in VCT, I do think we're in a era of change where initiators will rule and Sentinels will go to their own corner and just try and wait out, a better day when you're not gonna play against TEJO and a Breach destroying all of your util, and you cannot really stay on site because you have to play retakes. You cannot fortify a site anymore if those agents are gonna run amok. And if anyone tells me that Deadlock is gonna be a good choice, I don't know, buddies, but if you're gonna play Deadlock against a Yoru and a TEJO, you cannot really do anything. By the way, Yoru is a hard counter for Deadlock because the clone destroys the traps even if TEJO doesn't get them with the missiles, and the Yoru ultimate goes through Deadlock wall and also triggers the traps from Deadlock, so he can stun people standing in the range of the Deadlock traps. Like it's what I call the Deadlock special. When I Yoru ult and I try to get the Deadlock to be stunned with her own trap and then kill her while she's stunned. It happens so often. So yeah, I'm very excited to watch what's gonna be happening in VCT and how the teams are gonna approach it. But I truly hope that teams even will recognize that even if they will not feel super comfortable with playing TEJO, they should, because the agent is giga broken. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you like this type of content, leave a like or dislike if you dislike it, and a comment if you have any ideas on how to balance him or what other synergies that you found but I missed. See you next time.